My name is Cassy Summers. Welcome to the Curious Universe podcast. Thank you for joining me here today as we explore dying to survive. So what is surviving? What is survival? So it's defined as remaining alive, especially after the death of another or others, continuing to exist, remaining intact. So for what reason are so many people creating their lives, living their lives with an underlying energy of survival? What is it that makes us feel as though we need to fight to exist? That we need to strive to just remain alive? Back in the day, living was a lot different. You would be working continuously just to be able to feed your family. If there was a drought or there was a flood, if there were earthly events, you might be starving. We now live in a world where imports and exports create food everywhere. There are some countries that are in so much abundance. They have more food than they could ever even utilize. And a lot of their surplus actually goes into waste management. Then we have other countries that are not thriving, that are actually in that survival mode still. Now, if you live in a country where that's not the case, where there's an economy where you can have a job and that job pays you a paycheck, or maybe you're an entrepreneur that your business makes you money. However, do you still have a sense of survival? Now, I have engaged with people in all different realms of financial freedom, if you will. Even financial assets. You can take two different people, one of them having a, let's say, low income and one having a middle income. And based on their style of living, they might still have the same amount of excess money in their lives. They might have the same amount of stress. They might be functioning from similar vibrations of survival, even though this person would be considered low income and this person would be considered middle income. So what is it different about the wealthy, the rich, those that have a peace with money? And we're not just talking about money. I would also like to invite in the curiosity about surviving from being. Some of us are trying to survive our relationships. Some of us are trying to survive school, the workplace. There is an energy of survival within the money systems, but also within our very world. How many of us at one time in our life have actually felt so threatened by judgment that it was as though we had to go into survival? Let's look again. The definition of survival, remaining alive. Can judgment truly kill you? Can it take your body out of living? Can a judgment do that? Now, if you're noticing some energies coming up for you, maybe there's some stress, some tension, perhaps you're experiencing anxiety or nervousness, that might be an indication that this is something that's been in your world either in the past or it's still functioning somewhere in your world now. Are you dying to survive? Now, why did I word it that way? Well, what I've been noticing in the world lately is that those that are actually functioning from survival, okay, so these basic instincts of survival, the fight or the flight, okay, so they're either fighting to remain alive or they're fleeing to remain alive. We see this in the animal kingdom. There's those that fight and there's those that take flight. So the people that I have been engaging with that are functioning from survival, whether it's from finances, their emotional survival, their mental survival, whatever that is, they're actually from the functioning of that survival, they are killing their bodies, they are killing their possibilities, they are destroying their futures. They are, in fact, invoking death by the continuous functioning from survival, dying to survive. So are you dying to survive? Are there areas in your life where you are dying to survive? Are you functioning from survival so dynamically that you're actually creating death, decay, and destruction for you, your body, your possibilities, your money flows? And what now? So as you explore that curiously, as you explore that and you wonder, am I? You might have things pop up. You might have awarenesses of exactly where you are creating this. You might have pictures show up in your head. You might have physical responses, but no cognitive awareness. That's an indication that somewhere this is running true for you. Okay, so what else is possible if we weren't dying to survive? What is it that allows some people, where are they functioning from when they're functioning from thriving, that rich, that abundant living? Let's look to nature again for a moment. So you'll have these kind of barren landscapes where desertification has kind of taken over. There's not a lot of sustenance or creatures, animals. It's barren. And those that are living in that environment are most often functioning from that survival. Now let's look to the places that are so rich in resources. There's plenty of water, of nutrition, of animals of all sorts, an entire ecosystem bursting and thriving. Now that we could take into the arena of living. And you might have areas that you actually function from this rich, this abundant, this chaotic beauty of nature, where everything is contributing to each other. There is harmony, there's peace. So are there places where you function from thrival, where you have this thriving, generative energy, this continuous expansion, bigger and more and more and more? It doesn't reach a ceiling and it doesn't destroy and create and destroy and create. Do you sense the difference of that energy when something continuously expands? It gets richer and richer and richer. That's a sense of beyond survival. Now, if you have areas in your life where it's like, oh, things are going really good, and then they collapse on each other. Oh, if I work really, really hard, then you've brought something into the world. But the moment you don't apply continuous fight energy, work hard energy, then it falls apart. Those are not areas of thrival for you. You might ask yourself, am I functioning from survival in this area? That which is true for you will always have a sense of lightness, even if it's something that you don't want to be in existence. You will have a lightness from what's true for you. That which is not true, if there's a lie in there with the truth, you'll have a sense of contraction. So explore that. If it's light, acknowledge, okay, wow, I'm really functioning from survival in this area. If it's heavy, you can ask the question, is there a lie here? Is there a truth with a lie attached, or is this just not true for me? If it's not true for you, carry on. If it is true for you, if you notice a sense of these places of functioning from survival, what if instead of dying to survive, you were willing to let go of the fight or flight response systems going on in your world? How do we let go of those? One key element might be to locate the underlying point of view that's creating this energy in your life. So what is the underlying point of view? Take one example of a place that you have now identified that you're doing survival in. Maybe it's in relationship. So if you're surviving in a relationship, that means you're constantly in a space of like, either I got one foot out the door and I'm running away from this, or I'm going to fight to keep this. I'm going to fight for this relationship. You're in survival. Okay. What's the underlying point of view there? That the relationship isn't rich and abundant, that you don't own it and have it, that there's no peace and harmony here, that it could be taken away at any moment. Yeah. So get present with that for a moment. Get curious with that for a moment. Where did you buy the underlying point of view? Was it from a past relationship? Was it from seeing your parents' relationship or someone else's relationship? Was it just the point of view of relationships all around the world? Are you even doing relationship from your reality? Are you doing it from the limited reality that is often presented to us? Are you functioning from survival with your relationship? So now here's the thing, this is the big thing, because when you're functioning from survival, and when you have a underlying point of view, and I say underlining because often it's underneath everything. We are not even totally cognitively aware of that point of view until you put your presence on it, till you start to ask questions and you get curious. So you have this underlying point of view. It's not necessarily important for you to know where you got it. But in some cases, you might have to acknowledge that to actually let it go. But what we really want to get to is acknowledging that it's just a point of view. It's not necessarily reality, except that you have made it your reality. Your point of view creates your reality. This is a concept, a tool of access consciousness. And in accessing our consciousness and exploring all of this curiously, you can get a sense of these points of view that you've created your reality around. And so your point of view creates your reality. Your reality does not create your point of view. We've been taught it's the other way. We've been taught as we go through life and we experience life and we receive certain things and we witness certain things that we start to construct a complex reality around us. We start to construct it start to construct our points of view from the reality around us as though it is all handed and delivered to us. And this is the reality. And now we have our point of view that we interact with the reality. It's actually the other way around. And this is the trick. Because if you can acknowledge this one piece, then you now become the creator of your own reality. Would you be willing to have that much potency? So now if you identify, if you acknowledge that your points of view create your reality, then that would mean that it was your point of view that created all the things that proved to you that you need to survive in this area. So let's go from, we're playing with a relationship. Let's move into money for a moment, okay? So we all kind of come into a different stratification, a different vibration with money based on the family that we're born into and the people connected to that family. It could be your extended family, it could be friends, it could be just the environment that you live in, okay? Now, you may have chosen a family that had middle class or even had wealth, or a family that had no money. And both sets could have a functioning of survival. Just because someone has wealth doesn't mean that they're not still functioning from survival with money. So do not take it at face value. Really dig in with your curiosity. And what was the underlying energies growing up for you with money? And for some people, there might have been a time where it was one way and it flipped to the other. Some people come in and money until the age of 5 was really stressful, and then space opened up. For others, it's the other way around. They were born into amount of wealth, and then at some point, the wealth went away, okay? Do you see where we start to adopt these points of view? Now, we adopt our points of view from often the people around us. Who are the closest people? The people that raised you, the people that you spent the most time with, but also your area, the country you live in, the area of the city that you're in. You might have been in a low-income housing area. You might have been in a wealthy, secure, harmonious area. Look at this for you, curiously. Now, what were the underlying points of view that you bought that have created a sense of survival in this area? So now for you, it might not be money, but you can apply this to a relationship. You can apply this to your body. You can apply this to any aspect that you've become aware of that you are functioning from survival. So in identifying those points of view, to give those up can be one of the most illogical yet powerful things you can choose. If you grew up in a place where it was not safe to have money, that was the vibration that you grew up in, you will have that vibration with you. It's not safe to have money because it'll be stolen or you'll be killed for it, whatever that is. So that's a vibration of survival, right? It's striving to remain alive in this area. So to make sure that you can live, you have to make sure that you don't have money, because the underlying point of view here is that it is not safe to have money. This can trickle into so many places. So please allow your consciousness to explore this, and allow, as you're listening and being present here with me, to have that curiosity, to have all of these things pop up and move around in your world. We are loosening the solidity of these points of view together right now. Okay, so now let's again look at the energy of survival. So to give up survival in one area can feel like a very dangerous thing to choose. Because if you have agreed that you require to survive, then giving up this underlying point of view of survival now means that you won't be surviving. That doesn't actually mean that you will not live anymore. But do you see how you're caught? Do you see how this catches people? Because if you're functioning from survival, especially the fight or flight, okay? So if you're always fighting to have money, if you're always fighting to have a relationship, or if you're always fighting to maintain health in your body, then the idea underneath is that if you stop fighting, you will die. You will lose all your money. You will lose your relationship. You will lose the things important to you. Or if we look at it from the flight perspective, if you are not running from money, you are not safe. If you are not running from relationship, you are not safe. If you're not running from your body, you're not safe. So to give up the fight or the flight would indicate, because of these points of view of survival, that you will not survive without them. You have to get clear for you to truly let go of these. You have to get clear that it's only an interesting point of view. It is only an interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. You have this point of view about requiring to survive in this area. So when you can get a clear sense of the point of view, and for some of you might even have a clear memory of, oh, I remember this conversation my parents were having. They were fighting, and I picked up that point of view and I made it mine. The rest of your life, you will hold on to this, and you will continuously prove to yourself that this point of view is accurate, that this point of view is true, and you will maintain it by your survival. Now, if it disappeared, now let's just look at that for a minute. So take the area that you have identified that you are functioning from survival. And now look out into the world. Are there people in the world that are functioning without this underlying point of view? Are there people in the world, and maybe you don't personally know anyone, but you can tap into energy because you are an infinite being with infinite perceiving, and you can tap into the world? Are there people that aren't functioning from survival with relationship? Is that light? Huh. You've just sensed that energy. Are there people in the world that are functioning with money, not from survival? Is that light? You've just tapped into it. Are there people that are functioning with their body, not from survival? Is that light? You've just tapped into it. So if you can receive that energy, then you know that it is true. So in this area of survival truth, do you actually require to function from survival anymore? Can you let it go? Can you eliminate and eradicate the point of view that you bought that kept you in survival mode in this area? Now, it will conflict with experiences that you've had, but you will never have new experiences from a new reality if you're not willing to let it all go. Perhaps you had a relationship where you were dynamically gaslit or dynamically abused, or both. Gaslighting is a type of abuse, but could be physical, could be sexual. If you don't allow that experience to be what it was and not create it as a reality for you in the future, you can acknowledge this is what this was. This is what I chose. This is what was created. Now, choosing abuse, that's a whole nother topic for another time, but just let's look at the energy of, what if this was just what it was and it doesn't determine my future? It doesn't get to create the point of view from which the rest of my life is based upon. But if you are functioning from survival, and that's part of what this creates in your world, when someone's living with abuse, they're living with gaslighting, they are put into a survival state. They're constantly in flight and they're constantly in fight just to survive. Yes? So to give up survival, again, would feel like dying, would feel like dangerous. Danger, danger, danger. Everything that is. And everything that's holding that in place for you and not allowing you to release it, will you distrain and create it now, please? And when I say distrain and create it, we have the capacity to actually take energy and destroy and uncreate it from our worlds and release it and let it go. So abuse might be a little bit of a greater, more intense topic than we can really cover today. So let's move into something just a little bit more gentle, a little bit more subtle. Let's go into the space of survival from money. And for some of you might be thinking, that's not more gentle. But you can apply this and really, truly change anything. Might take you a couple times. You might have to listen to this a few times. You might have to allow the consciousness of everything that you're uncovering and the energetics of what we're doing to move through your world, as it will slowly start to release the solidity of the ideas, the points of view, the definitions, and the limitations. And as it eases that solidity, you can then access more space. And in that space, you can dissipate and release everything and anything. So let's say maybe you grew up with low income, not a lot of money, and your parents were in a mode of surviving just to pay the bills, to pay the electricity, to put food on the table, to clothe you as their child. So if you notice that vibration, and it could be on a different scale again, but if you notice that vibration in your world, then somewhere you might be functioning from that energy of survival. And if you're functioning from that, you are dying in some way to hold survival in existence. Survival is great for short spurts. Survival is a brilliant design that if you required immediate adrenaline, let's say that you were in an undertow and you were drowning, the activation of survival and adrenaline can allow the body to do things that you probably don't access in everyday living. Suddenly you can swim stronger or harder, or you can lift something off of your body. We've seen people lift things off of other people's bodies in that moment of survival. This should be a short burst action. Having your body continuously functioning from the energy of survival, notice what that can do to a body. Notice what that can do to your money flows. If your point of view is that you need to survive, you need to hold that functioning, that vibration in your world. So can you ever truly have prosperity, abundance, richness, wealth, if you're functioning from survival? They can't exist at the same time, right? Can you truly have a beautiful, caring, nurturing relationship if you're functioning from survival in relationship? They can't exist at the same time. So look for those places where you have survival running in the background. Survival is your underlying point of view. And what if instead of dying to survive, you were willing to kill your survival? You were willing to look at that point of view and go, I'm done with this. I will let this die. And not even from force or fight, but actually from pulling every molecule of energy out of it. It has no oxygen anymore. It has no breath. It has no way to live. And you let that vibration of survival die and release and move out of your world, out of your universe, your reality. And would you then start to look at what would you like to create your reality as in that area? What would thriving financially be like for you? Without defining it, just get a sense of that. Just curiously explore that energy for a moment. What would thriving with your body be like for you? What would having a generative, creative, thriving relationship be like for you? You can apply this to any area of your life. You can apply it to your business. You can apply it anything that's popping, as many as you would like. and be in that space and put your attention here now. Because as you let go of survival, you get to have all of this energy that you've been using to survive with. All of that energy is now available to you to create with, to create something that maybe you've never had before, or you haven't had for a long time. You get to create a living of thrival, of richness in any way that you would like to. That's what's possible for you now. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your curiosity. See you in the next one. Thank you for exploring the curious universe with me. Your curiosity matters. And what if together we could create a greater, more curious world?